Well, hello, and welcome everyone. Laura Brandenburg here from Bridging the Gap. And at this point, I think you should be seeing me and my title slide. So if you can hear me, first let me know that you can hear me in the question box. That would be great. And Brandy, I see your question already. Perfect, I love it. And if you can see my title slide, and if you can see my face on the webcam, that would be great as well to let me know. It's the first time, I think, one of the first times I've done this through GoToWebinar, actually shared my webcam, but I wanted to say hi. So Neil says yes. I'm hoping that means you can see me, can see the title slide with the presenter. Oh, all right, I'm sharing the wrong screen. Thank you for letting me know that. Let's see here. Hey, Neil. All right, let me, I need to go. All right, so now you should see just the slide. Thank you for letting me know, Lisa, that the notes were there. And can you see my webcam, or do I maybe need to move it? Now I'm probably covering it up. It's not the most important part, but I do like to build trust, and I think video helps build trust. Let's see. You can see me and the slides. All right. Hopefully this is working. If you see me looking this way, it's because that's where the question box is. This way is where my camera is. So I've got 2 or 3 monitors going now. But I will do my best to look engaged. I am obviously engaged. Everything is looking at information related to delivering the webinar today. So my goal in this webinar is really to answer your questions about the blueprint. So Brandy, I love that you already got a question in. That's amazing. And I'm super grateful that our business model at Bridging the Gap really allows me to, and allows us to provide so much content, so much coaching for free. If you've been following along what we've been doing since August, you've seen we released a free training, and that is still available, by the way. And I've been doing a lot of group coaching sessions in our Facebook group and publishing those replays to YouTube, because I know not everybody's on Facebook. So going live in that group and answering questions, and we've shared some value-added coaching even after the free training, talking about our success stories and all kinds of things. So it's a wonderful part of my business to provide all of those free resources and help people get to the next level, no matter where they're at in our careers. As you know, we also offer programs for those who are ready to take the next step, to really go in depth with their training, to receive the instructor support that we can provide in a paid program, and to really receive feedback on their work. And so the purpose of this webinar today is to answer questions from those of you who are really thinking about joining the blueprint and may not be sure if this is the right program for you, or have a question or a concern about it before you dive in. So wanted to make sure I was available to answer those questions, because we do get started next Thursday, and the last day to register is next Tuesday. That just gives us a day to make sure everybody's in the platform and has their GoToWebinar links and all that good stuff. So before we jump in, I'm going to spend maybe the first 15 to 20 minutes just recapping the model for anyone who hasn't seen much about the blueprint yet, and speaking to a few of the things and the questions that we've received, sharing a few of the success stories from our past participants, the experiences they've had, the successes they've had, how that helps answer some of the questions we've been receiving. And as I do this, feel free to put your question into the chat box as well, or the question box, and I will kind of check to that box every once in a while to see what questions are there, and I will weave those in as we go, and then we'll have quite a bit of time at the end dedicated specifically to your questions. So sound good? Okay, and Brandy's question is, will this course prepare me for IIBA testing for a business analysis certification? Great question, and I'm going to definitely speak to that one, Brandy, so I'm glad you got that in. All right, so let's see. I always like to just start very quickly with this mission for business analysis. This is our manifesto at Bridging the Gap. It really drives everything we do in terms of our training, and it's the purpose of what we do as business analysts. We create Out of chaos, we create order. Out of disagreement, we create alignment. Out of ambiguity, we create clarity. But most of all, we create positive change for organizations we serve. Another one of my mantras is we build our profession one business analyst at a time, and success starts with you. And that guides what we do at Business Bridging the Gap. It's a very individualized program and a very individualized experience through that program. And you'll see that as I share some of the success stories, because we often get like, is it too senior to me, or am I too junior, or am I too experienced or not experienced enough? And we've really had people from multiple different backgrounds, multiple different career levels benefit from the program, because we meet you where you're at and help you take that next step, okay? So what is actually covered in the training program? We have 3 modules, and we cover these 3 modules over the course of 4 months. So we go through business process analysis. This is how does work get done in your organization? What are the handoffs between departments? What are the repeatable processes that deliver value to your customers and create value internally as well? And how do we find the problems with those processes and improve those processes? Okay, so that's what we focus on in this module. And then we go to use cases and wireframes. And this is, what does the software need to do to support that process? So how does the software support that process? What does it need to do? Not how is it built. We get a lot of questions about how technical do I need to be? Do I need to have a technical background? What if I don't have a technical background? And I'll share Manzoli's story with you in a bit about he doesn't have a technical background, and really about half of BAs have a technical background and half have a business background. So whichever area you're from, you probably feel like a little bit of the work is a little uncomfortable to you, but then another part of the work is extremely comfortable, right? So, but you are also in company of half of the profession. So you're in the right background to get where you want to go, is what I'm trying to say there. But the use cases and wireframes model, it's not a technical training. It is, how do you describe in clear language what the software needs to do, and how do you get your business and technical users on the same page about your software requirements, okay? And then we have data modeling for business analysts. And this is, how is information stored in your organization? What fields and information do you collect from software or from your business processes? What information do you need for reporting that you might use to discover problems to improve your business process? And that kind of takes things full circle, right? So how do you manage and analyze and model the data so that it can be analyzed effectively? And that's what we cover in data modeling. So some of the techniques here are entity relationship diagrams, data dictionaries, a glossary, and a data mapping template, as well as a system context diagram. All right. So any questions about what's covered before I go on? Okay. All right. So how does the program work? So I mentioned already, it's a 4-month program. So it's not like you sit down and in a week have to learn all 3 of those sets of techniques. We dedicate about 6 weeks to each of those modules, and what it starts with is on-demand training. On-demand training is video content, audio content, full text transcripts, along with templates, checklists, swipe files, whatever you need to actually apply that learning in your work and actually use what you're learning in your work. And so that is available to you anytime that it works for you to go through it. So that's the most flexible and convenient part of the program. You can choose to binge watch all of the on-demand training on a Saturday, or we've had people like take a half hour here and there throughout their work week or their lunch break or each evening. Like whenever at most works for you, you can go through those modules and go through the learning and download the materials and start applying them. And that's like the saturation part of the program, right? It's just learning what these techniques are. And then the next step, which is really where we leverage the fact that we don't have to rush because we didn't fly an instructor in. We're all connected from all across the world, and we have the virtue of time, or the benefit of time. So you get to go through that saturation process in the on-demand training and apply it to your own work as a business analyst, or not as a business analyst. We're going to talk about that because that's one of the most frequent questions we get too, is like, what do I do if I'm not a business analyst yet? And we always have found opportunities for people to apply what they're learning outside of even a formal business analyst role. But when you do this, you get the real world experience. And what the benefits that come from this are pretty significant, because now you have something you can speak to in a resume, you can speak to in a job interview, you can talk to your boss and be like, I've actually done this, maybe it's time for a pay grade up or upgrade in my pay, right? You have the experience to speak to. And on top of that, this is where that individualized aspect comes in, because you will receive instructor support and validation on that real world experience. So you get stuck like with how to organize your process flow diagram, and you can email in a question around it, or you can bring that example to a small group instructor hour and ask for advice on how to get that handled, right? So we have a lot of ways for you to interact with our instructor team and get that feedback that gets you individually to that next step and gives you that clarity and that confidence. And then yes, feel free at this point, you can put questions in the chat box, and if you want to come off mute to ask a question, I'll do that in just a little bit. So I'm going to kind of go through a bit of preliminary information for people who haven't seen much about the program yet, and then we'll definitely open the floor to questions as well, and the way to do that would be to raise your hand. Okay, and that is what creates the confidence. You do also earn 36 credits for your IIBA or PMI certification. And to, I forget who asked that question at the beginning. I remember your question. Oh, Brandy's question around, does it actually prepare me for the IIBA testing? This is not an exam prep course. It's not a test prep course. It's about learning and applying the skills, the core skills. But I will tell you what we see happen for people who are maybe less familiar with business analysis or have never received formal training on business analysis before, and they try to jump into more of an exam prep course or just learning the BABAC, because to pass that exam, you have to learn the BABAC and study the BABAC and be able to answer a bunch of questions about the BABAC. And if you haven't understood and appreciated the experience that you have applying a lot of those techniques, it can feel like a very academic exercise, and it's actually harder for your brain to assimilate the information in the BABAC. So we see a lot of people go through a training like ours to get grounded in the core skills in a more practical way, and then be really well prepared to prepare for the exam, possibly just using more of an exam simulator and a study group to help them learn all what's required in the BABAC. So it is not, though, by any means, any sort of an exam prep course, but you do receive the credits that you need to apply for certification with either PMI or IIBA. Okay, let's see, question from Jamila. Just a second here, I need to like expand my box. I'm in Dallas, Fort Worth, and I currently am back on the market for a BA role. What I'm seeing is a lot of BA roles require technical skills such as reading code, knowing one or more coding languages, SQL, Java, C++, analytical skills using Tableau, Power BI, or heavy Excel for problem solving, in addition to everyday BA duties. So after speaking with several recruiters, many have said that they are seeing mostly technical BA roles, business systems analyst, IT business analyst, data business analyst, or more similar titles. How will this help me with technical roles that are growing in demand for my local area? So great question, and we don't cover those skills specifically. So I would suggest, like, that is a lot to take in, right? You listed a lot of areas. I'm just looking back at your question, a lot of areas of expertise. Like, do you want to go down that technical road? That's a question I always ask someone. Like, do you want to be a technical BA doing more data analysis and business intelligence type of roles? And you get to answer that question, yes or no. And it could be, like, these BA roles exist using these 3 areas, like, they still exist, right? They exist out there. They might not be a business analyst role in terms of a title in your local organization or your local area. So if somebody is out there doing the technical aspect of the BA, somebody is also out there analyzing the business process, right? Somebody else is out there figuring out what that software needs to do and making sure the business also understands what the software needs to do. And that more technical role might be doing the data modeling. Having the data modeling knowledge will help you communicate with those more technical business analysts very effectively. So you'll be able to understand, like the ERD, once you get how to put an NNT relationship diagram together, you will understand the basic concepts of how databases are organized and how like we actually even have a crash course in that lesson on how relational databases work. But it's not like how to build a relational database, right? It's like, here's what you would learn and glean conceptually from learning SQL. So if you don't have to actually do SQL in your job and you just want to learn conceptually what you would learn from SQL, the concepts, which sometimes is what people, it's like, oh, now I get how relational databases work, and now I can have really smart, productive conversations with database designers about how to model the data so it represents what the business needs. And that's what you would take away from the data modeling module of the blueprint. But we don't cover those technical skills in depth, so just really ask that question for yourself though. Is this an area I want to go with my career? And if not, look at where are the more business-focused BA roles popping up, and I guarantee you they're somewhere, and it just might not be those recruiters, because maybe those recruiters are gravitating towards more technical roles because they're also recruiting for software developers and all of that, right? So who in that organization is recruiting for that more business side role? Okay. Then asks, some business process use cases and data modeling are part of BA in addition to BRD and FRD. Great question. So yeah, this is the techniques that you use to analyze and invalidate and discover the requirements. We don't actually cover templates like you would put in a BRD, a business requirements document, or a functional requirements document. Those documents are in place in some organizations. They are starting to get phased out, especially as we go more agile, because we are just not seeing as many organizations create those big hefty documents. We're still seeing them in job descriptions and things like that, and I think some companies are definitely still using them. But what you're learning here is the core analytical skills to figure out what goes in the BRD. Right, so sometimes a BRD would have like process flow diagrams in it, and an FRD might have use cases in it and wireframes in it to describe those functional requirements instead of just being like a long list of requirements. And so these tools help you figure out what are those functional requirements that would maybe need to get organized into an FRD if your organization is still using those, but they're really the discovery and the thinking tools. The other thing I'll say about this is often we get questions about how do I know what questions to ask about the requirements, right? Like I'm trying to figure out my FRD or my BRD and like put all the information into this template that my organization has, and I'm kind of stuck. How do I even know what questions to ask the stakeholders? And what I love about these models that here, and the reason we teach them, is because the structure gives you the questions. So when you start and be like, okay, well, the core process related to this BRD is our sales process or our setting up a new account process, right? When does that process start? When does it end? What are all the steps that happen in between? What are the exceptions? Who does what? And you start all of a sudden you have all kinds of questions to ask. Where are the gaps? What flows here, right? And so that's where the beauty is in some of these techniques, is they help you ask those questions that then can go into your BRD and your FRD. So great question, Ben, thank you. All right. So another big question we get is how much time will the program take? And the program's really designed to be completed in 3 hours a week when you stay on track over the span of the 4 months, right? And even really 2 to 3 hours a week. But what we're seeing, and I hesitate to say the 2 only because what we've seen as a pattern from our past participants is that they are investing more, right? So there's like a minimum that you can do, which is like you go through your learning, you fill out your workbook, you do your example, and you send it in, right? That's probably 2 hours a week. If you stay on track and focused and you've got a solid, like, this isn't earth-shatteringly new content to you, it's something that you've got some familiarity with. But then we see people who are like, I want to apply it to a lot of different situations, and I want to join every instructor hour to learn from every possible participant, and I want to join, think through and ask a bunch of questions. So then, you're leveraging your investment in the program, and it's probably you might be spending 5 hours a week doing that. Or if it's a new area to you and you're really struggling with something, a piece of it, you might spend more time on that specific piece, okay? And so, like, sometimes people just have a conceptual trouble with use cases or specific data modeling pieces, and so you might spend some more time in those pieces figuring out the nuances of those pieces and going through the learning process and asking more questions. And so there might be periods of time that take a little bit more. But in general, it's really designed to be 3 hours a week. And because this session in particular does span into 2020, we actually put pause on the program over the holidays and give you some extra time in that Christmas, New Year time, which if you're behind can be a great catch-up time. If you're on track, you can just take a break and then jump back in with us in January. So we don't expect you to be investing that time over the holidays as well, but it can, if you have some time off, it can also be a great catch-up time for you. Okay. And then the investment, for those of you who haven't seen it yet, it is a $2,997 program. And again, that includes all the content, which you get to download and take with you. It includes live webinars. We do 8 live webinars as an entire cohort throughout the program with myself and our instructors. We have private instructor support for you via email, so you can ask your questions about the content, and additional small group instructor hours. I think there's 20. We just finalized the schedule. There's at least 20 scheduled during our workbook review areas, and so that you can connect with an instructor if you have any questions before you submit your workbook in. And it includes that individual feedback on your workbooks that I mentioned, so you're getting that review, and a second review if you need it. So if your first workbook doesn't meet the requirements, you get a second chance, and 36 credits for either PMI or IIBA certification. And we do have a payment plan that spreads the investment over the 4 months of the program. So that's a $997 deposit and 3 payments of $797. All right, so just a couple stories, because you might be thinking, like, how does this make sense for me, right? It's a big investment. How do I justify the price to myself? Well, Amelia McHenry was one of our participants back in 2018, our spring 2018 sessions, about 1.5 years ago. And before she joined that session, she was a technical writer who had really maxed out her salary level in technical writing. And that actually led to her getting laid off. I didn't know that until I recorded her case study over the summer, that she had been laid off from that technical writing position because she was one of the highest paid people in that department. And so she was looking around for, where do I actually leverage some of the skills I have to get to a salary or to a role that would create more salary potential for me. And so she was recommended to join a business analyst role, found a business analyst role, had the title of business analyst, joined the Blueprint, and then went to do business process in our first module, and actually didn't have a way to apply that in her work. So she was in the titled role, but actually not having the opportunity to expand her skills and experience. And we hear this example a lot, where it's like, I've had the title for X amount of years, but I didn't really do the work, don't tell anyone, right? And so she volunteered, and this is one of the, if you're in between jobs or you feel like you can't do this in your employer, how might you make that work experience part of the program work? And she volunteered at her husband's organization and analyze a process related to their infrastructure work, and then analyze some software related to that. And then for the data modeling module, she actually helped her daughter, who is starting a new music career, do some CD ordering process and how the data was going to flow between a couple different systems. So she applied the course materials in very unique ways, and then a few months later landed a short-term consulting contract. And then this is when my heart just blew up, when she Facebooked me this message about landing a business analyst lead position for $90,000 a year. And this is a $20,000 increase over where she had been previously, and it was a huge, huge win for her. It was warmed my heart as well. And this is not in a big city. So Amelia is in Brentwood, Tennessee. So it's not a major metropolitan area, and so it's a pretty big deal to have that salary in that area. And so I get this question of like, what if I have no business analyst experience? And specifically, Karen sent in, I'm trying to improve my business analyst skills so as to be able to help my company see if Salesforce is a good fit for them. So how would this program help me if I have no previous business analyst experience? Well, in that role, you could start by analyzing a business process. So what is a part of the sales process, right? So you would be applying the sales process or the business process work to analyze the sales process, which would help see, will Salesforce be a good fit for this? And then you could look at a component, maybe it's setup lead or setup campaign or manage lead, right? And look at how does Salesforce do this and write a use case for it and put some wireframes together. It would help you start to use these techniques, build your experience while also seeing if Salesforce is a good fit. You could look at the data and map your sales data, if that's in spreadsheets right now or another system, to Salesforce and their data, and how does the data fit? Because a lot of times we don't do that work ahead of time, right? We just assume all our data is going to come over. Where are their gaps? Where is there information that your company is important to your company that may or may not be in Salesforce? Where's there information that Salesforce will give your company that you don't have visibility to now? And so all of those techniques can start to help you. And you don't have to have previous business analyst experience in order to successfully complete the program. You just have to be willing to apply it in your role, whatever that role is. Okay, so Brandy asks, your course is similar to a college program. Yeah, it is. We get that comparison a lot at a very small fraction of the price, I would say. That's another way to justify that $3,000 investment. Like when you go to take a college program that might give you more of the theoretical knowledge behind this, usually you're looking at spending $10,000 or in the tens of thousands. VA Essentials is a quarter. I'm not sure what you mean by a quarter. So I'm assuming when you say BAE, Brandy, just clarify that for me. Do you mean our BA Essentials course? So what's the difference essentially between BA Essentials and the Blueprint? I'll go on and let you clarify that and then answer your question. Okay. But thank you for comparing it to a college course. All right, and then just one last, actually two more shares here, and then I'm gonna take, I think we have a couple of hands raised, and then if we have time at the end, I'll share some of the other slides that I had as well. But I did wanna speak to like, what if I'm more senior, right? So what if I'm not entry level? How could this benefit me? And Annette Richards is really an example of that as well. And she had fallen into the business analyst role, was doing some project management, a little bit of assisting developers even, and some business analysis. And actually, she was doing so well at that they'd given her 4 people that she was leading, not managing, but leading. But she still felt like she had a credibility gap for herself, right? Like I've done all this self-directed learning, I'm personally successful, but I'm actually not quite sure how to make sure other people can be successful. And for her, it was that confirmation that she knew what she knew. So when you think about the examples that Annette might have submitted versus one of our participants who came to the profession without a lot of experience, they might have been different. Like she might have tackled a more complex process and a more complex data modeling scenario, and she got to stretch her skills in order to get to that next level in her career. So that's what I meant when it's a very individualized program there. And I will also say just one of the lessons that I have learned in business, I get to network with a lot of other business owners and a lot of online business owners, and like we always focus on the fundamentals. right? Like, so there's all these like shiny new things. The best coaching programs I've been a part of focus back on the fundamentals. So what does it actually take to run a successful business versus chasing all the different shiny objects that may or may not work for you? And that's really what I think Annette's story speaks to as well, is when you focus on the fundamentals and get really solid and confident in those fundamentals, it can mean great things for your career as well. And Brandy says it's business analysis excellent for 62 PDU approved by IIBA. It's a quarter of the price. I'm not going to speak to other providers' programs specifically. So yeah, and I'm not familiar with that program. So I would just, you do your own assessment of what you like best and what's included. And I feel very confident about the value of what we're putting together given the price point. And so you can do your own assessment and find out about that for yourself. Okay. And I didn't mean that to be off-putting. I don't want to end up getting to a point where I'm critiquing or making an assumption about somebody else's program that I'm not familiar with. Sorry. But I would definitely look at what is the instructor support. I'm going to share in a minute who our instructors are. What are you really looking for? And if you need something that's preparing you for the Bayback test as well, make sure that that's going to be what helps you. Lisa says, I'm a BA3, not quite senior level, and I completed your master's program. So the BA Essentials Masterclass. How does this compare? Okay, great question. Let me see. I think I have a slide on this. No, I didn't include it. I thought I added it at the last minute. Never mind. So the BA Essentials Masterclass covers our 8-step process our 8-step process that you use to approach a project. The Business Analyst Blueprint covers the techniques that you use to analyze and discover requirements. So we didn't go deep into like how to create a use case, how to create a business process, how to create a wireframe, how to do the data modeling in the BA Essentials Masterclass. You learn the foundational framework of how to approach the project, and there's some overlaps. So for example, in step 2, where we're discovering business objectives, you would probably use business process analysis to help discover those business objectives. In step 5, where you're defining the detailed requirements, that's where you're going to be doing your use cases, your wireframes, your data models. So this is really, we see people take them in both orders. So we see some people join the BA Essentials Masterclass first and then take the blueprint to do the deep dive into the techniques. We see other people, especially when they're newer, start with the blueprint, because often when you're not yet a BA, it's easier to find a process to analyze than it is to find a project to do the entire BA process on. And so you get started building your experience right away with the blueprint, and then you take the BA Essentials Masterclass as a follow-up course. And we do include a short, like a 1-hour session on that business analysis process as a bonus in the Business Analyst Blueprint, and we speak to the overlaps between the course and like, now that you have all the blueprint, when would you use these techniques in your business analysis process? So we stitch them together that way. Great question, Lisa. Thank you. And thank you for being a customer. Okay. Then we have Todd. So Todd, I'd like to share Todd's story too, because we really, Todd was in between positions when he joined the Blueprint this year. It was January 2019, and he was a pre-registration, so he was joined early. He got a bit of coaching about how he might use the Blueprint and decided to go back to his previous employer and he had invested in this course for himself in between jobs. It's a huge move to make, and I'm learning these new skills. I would love to help you out. Do you have any experience or things going on where I could help? It turned out his company was going through a merger, and they have tons of processes to analyze, and he was able to go through all the modules of the course and offered them pro bono work to do the samples that he needed for the course. Well, that's like it's a very significant amount of work, but it also is limited in the sense this wasn't like, him working for them full time for months, right? It was, I'm going to give you this amount of value for free in order to get this experience back as well. And it led to paying contract work for him. So he is now back working with that employer, doing some of his role that he did before, as well as some additional roles, and moving that into more of a business analyst role. So that is just a way that you could think about, like, how can I leverage my investment in this course to actually pay for itself with either a side gig or with an opportunity, like use it to create the opportunity. We've seen a lot of people do things like this where they have creative ways to both get the experience, finish the course successfully, and create an opportunity for themselves. Okay, so finally, I just want to say who the instructors are, because we do really have a top-notch set of instructors. These may or may not be familiar names to you. Almost all of them have spoken. Paula, right now, who is also our program manager, is on her way to South Africa to keynote at a business analysis development day there and speak, and like she's flying around 3 different times in that area. So, I mean, she's a sought-after speaker. Other instructors have also spoken in their local meetings and the Business Analyst BBC conference offered by IIBA. So lots of experience, lots of credibility. I really feel like we have a top-notch set of instructors, and they are also all employed as business analysts. So they do this as side work because they care about the profession and they want to see you succeed. So you are benefiting here from people who are either practicing business analysts or in some cases leaders of business analyst teams in their organizations, and they're giving you their perspective. We also represent 3 different countries. So we've got the US, UK, and Australia represented, and actually Nadine comes from South Africa, so we can count a 4th country if we want. But they really do this because they care and they want to see you succeed, and for you to be the best BA that you can be. So I'm very proud of our instructor team and always know that you are in good hands when you work with them. All right, so I have a few more things, but I've gone on lots longer, so I will come back to those if they come up in the Q&A or if we have a little bit more time in the end. But right now I want to make sure I'm acknowledging the fact that I promised to answer your questions and bring a few people on the line. So feel free to get questions into the question box if you have, like I've already been paying attention to those, or raise your hand and I will take you off mute. So I'm going to start with Benny. Oh, let's see. I am not able to unmute you, Benny. You might need to do something on your end. Let me see if I can get Vin. Vin or Vine?
Vine.
Vine, hi. Apologize for that. I had answered a few of your questions. Did you still have some questions for me?
The last question I have is, lately, even though you're looking for a BA position, they are asking, do I have any, at least the knowledge, not like hands-on, how much of do you have little bit of, writing the scripts, for example, not like a DBA or something like that, just to write this, because I've been talking to people, they ask me, okay, Ryan, can you write a select statement, because does it make sense? I mean, like, do I have to learn separately, or will it be the part of?
Can you say that again? Write the scripts or write the steps?
No, write the select statement.
What's the question that you're getting asked?
Say, write the select statement. Say, as a
the select statements.
Select statement. A very simple one. I'm not talking about like very complicated ones.
Yeah.
I see whenever I'm talking to people, they ask me like, "Hey, Brian, do you know how to write a select statement?" That's the. I don't know whether it is related to the BA or not. So I'm just asking that question.
Yeah, it's very similar to the question that let's see, who was that? Jamila had asked with the SQL. So the select statements is just SQL.
Okay.
SQL skill, and honestly, if that's your one thing, like I would just go take a very simple intro to SQL course and find one.
Okay.
If you understand how databases work and things like that, it should be relatively easy to pick up. Do you feel like you have like that conceptual understanding of a database?
Yeah, I do have it. So that's why I'm just trying to understand, because when you are giving this course for like 4 months, 5 months, does it include this also or not? But anyway, you answered the question to me because
Yeah.
I mean, like so many years ago, I was a Sybase DBA, so it's not a,
Oh, so
uh,
you have that experience
yeah,
then.
I have, writing all the self statements, everything like that. Being a Sybase DBA, I can create the databases, all the tables, everything I can do. But what my question is, in this course of these 4 months, is it also included or not? That's the only thing I just want.
Oh, I gotcha. No, we don't cover that. But it sounds
Okay,
like you've got that
I have
knowledge.
it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
you're covered there.
okay,
What
thank
kind of
you.
jobs are you applying for?
Actually, to make it short, actually, I'm trying to get into business analysis and the data analysis together because I learned a lot in creating the use cases and then I tried Irving data modeling. But what I'm not able to do is I'm not able to prepare, having meetings with the stakeholders, understand exactly what are the business needs,
Mhm.
how to prepare the document. That's where I'm not able to do this. So that's why I just wanted to get into this one and understand exactly what is to be done to come up with a proper BA document before it goes to the stakeholders, how they understand and all these things to the agile or whatever it is. I'm just trying to understand the whole process,
Yeah.
how I can become the master of a business analyst. That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. So I do feel like the techniques that we teach here would help you bridge that more technical understanding you have, and
Yeah,
then look at how do I communicate these things and ask questions around these things from a business perspective. So
correct.
starting with that business process, and one of the things I didn't mention, but we have lessons on the various communication techniques along with
Okay.
that. So like
Yeah.
in the business process module, there is a lesson on discovering the process, and it comes
Right.
with like a meeting agenda for that and notes on how to open that meeting. So there's a lot around the communication process as well, because it's just as important as like how do I actually put that document together.
Yep.
Right.
That's what I'm. Thank you very much. I
Oh,
appreciate
you're
that.
welcome. You're welcome. So it sounds like it complements your skill set quite well.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I hope you can join us, and
Yep.
thank you so much for your question. All right, I'm going to try Benny again. There we go. Hi, Benny. I can't hear you. There, hello? Benny? Oh, back on mute. Oh, sorry, now I muted you. There, hello?
Hi.
Hi. Did you have a question for me?
No, I didn't. Just happy just to go through yours, to
Oh,
listen and
okay.
find out what you have.
Sometimes GoToWebinar randomly raises people's hands. So we'll count that as a
Okay.
technical glitch, but thank you. Thank you for playing. Awesome.
Okay, thanks.
All right, thanks. Thanks for being here. All right. Let's see. Ivy says, do you recommend also purchasing the templates? We do see people purchase the templates along with the blueprint every once in a while. Not every once in a while. Some people, like that is our comprehensive package, right? It's all of that together. So if the reason to purchase the templates, if you think you would benefit from even more tools or just having all of those things at your disposal, I would look, it's really an individual like toolkit by toolkit decision. I will tell you when you join the blueprint, you do get an option to save even on the entire bundle. That's even more than the bundle on the website, the bundle price on the website. So we do see people take advantage of that offer, but that's totally up to you. And if you have any specific questions about individual templates, just let me know which toolkit you're thinking of and what you're hoping to achieve with it, and I can let you know if it fits that need. Let's see. But what I wouldn't recommend is like what we see people do sometimes is take the templates and hope that they're going to supplement or replace the blueprint. And because they're templates and they're tools and they're designed to help make your work easier and faster and give you some of the frameworks, but they're not really teaching you on the techniques in depth like we do in the blueprint. And Lisa asks another question, with Agile using user stories, does it include creating user stories? Yes, it does. So slide is a little small here probably, but in the software level module, the use cases and wireframes, we also have a lesson on how to break apart your use case into a product backlog and how to then write user stories. So it's not a complete Agile BA course because that's like a whole nother topic, but we appreciate the fact that most of us are doing use case analysis in Agile environments. And so we need to know how to break apart that use case into user stories and how to put together user stories that would be acceptable to our Agile teams. So that is covered. And data modeling, is that available just as a separate course? That's Jill. It is. So you do get a discount when you join at the Blueprint. So each course is individually priced at $12.97, so $1,297 USD. The Blueprint at the $2,997 USD is a discount over investing in each of those individually, as well as you get the additional benefits of being part of a live session. Because we do the webinars and we have a lot of additional instructor hours. There are instructor hours included with the individual courses. We do 2 a month, but like as I mentioned, we are doing 20 across the 4 months in the Blueprint. So there's a lot more access to our instructors, but it is available as a separate course. So sometimes that's what makes sense for people. And so we like to offer that as an option. All right, and you're welcome, Ivy. All right, I'm gonna actually move question. Oops, yeah, over here. Okay. Just look to see if there's any more questions here. Okay. I think we're good for now. Let me just, so we have a few more minutes. Some of the other questions we get. Oh, we looked at our lovely instructors. What if I have taken another class? We get this. So we have had a lot of people join our program or individual courses after having taken like a college course in business analysis or other training that is more theoretical. In this example, Zachary was sharing that he had learned business analysis in his college class. And he was a tax analyst at the time. So again, not somebody in a formal business analyst role. The takeaway that he expressed here was like really needing that more hands-on practical experience. So to the point made earlier, like that it's like more of a college course, right? And so, and not like a certification prep program. So those are definitely two very different things. And often, you want to make space in your development for both of those. See, and then another question, what if I'm not employed at all? So we talked about how Amelia was employed, but still couldn't do the work, and how Todd was actually not employed, but used it to find a contractor position. Another example of that was Perry. So he joined also as our spring 2018 session, and he was actually pursuing certification. So he's in the UK, in the Jersey Islands in the UK, and he was pursuing his BCS certification, which is really only relevant and common in that particular, in the UK. And he had 4 out of 5 of those exams done. It's a 5-exam certification. It's pretty intense. But he realized that he was like cramming for the test and then taking the test, but then he was going back to his job search and he was like, well, I can't really apply for that job because I'm missing that skill, and I can't really apply for that job because I'm missing that skill. And he just kind of kept feeling like he still didn't have those practical skills that he needed to get the jobs that he wanted. And so he went through the Blueprint, like he paused his BCS certification, which to me is like a huge decision to make when you're on a track like that and you're like, well, wait a minute, let me redirect my energy, redirect my finances, and he describes it, he was like, I was really worried about my career and I took this leap of faith into the Blueprint. And he left the program with a lot more confidence in his skills. He volunteered at a local charity to use the skills, so to build his experience and to complete the course. And then about a month after finishing the program, he landed 2 business analyst job offers in a week. And so he was able to negotiate which one he wanted the most. So that was a really big win for him, and just another kind of example of how the certification plans in this kind of program can go together as well. And for us, do we have any topics like IT enterprise architecture? No, we don't cover that in depth in the program. We cover the core concepts. So like as you are going through an enterprise architecture project, you might need to model data and figure out how your data is organized. And so you would have some of those more conceptual analytical tools, but we don't cover like the enterprise IT architecture. You wouldn't want me teaching you that. I'll be quite honest with you. So that's the kind of thing when I don't have a technical background either. I have done some code, like there's some really light coding that I have done in a very forced, figure it out as I go kind of way, like do it yourself kind of way. In the early stages of my company, like I built our website using WordPress, that kind of thing, and can copy and paste HTML code from help files to figure out how to do things. But you wouldn't want me teaching you how to organize your IT architecture for your enterprise. And so like there's other people who are way, way better at that. Okay. And Michelle asks, what is the duration of the data modeling course if taken as an individual course? So it is still the same amount of content as you would get in the data modeling module. We do give you 90 days to finish the course. So it's spread out a little bit. You get the content over either 4 to 5 weeks over the first, once you join, and then it is, you have time on your own to go through that when it works for you and submit your work within 90 days of completing or of starting the course. It's the same content. So the blueprint just has a more scheduled approach because it's part of a live program. We're all going through it together. There's deadlines for each of the workbooks just to hold everybody accountable. And we do see people have a deeper, richer experience by going through them one after another like that. So that's, but that's, I think that answers your question if you have anything else about that. And no, the data modeling as an individual doesn't have the live webinars. We do have instructor hours. So the difference is the webinars, we go through things like how to select your model for how do you even select what business process you should analyze? That's a question we often get. And we actually cover that in our first or our second webinar. Our first webinar is questions about the program generally, but the second webinar is questions about the process, like how do you actually figure out your business process. So it doesn't have webinars like that, like with the whole group, because it's on demand, and so we could have like one person in that course right now, or we could have 10, right? But we don't have those kind of webinars because that's not on a schedule. We do have twice each month instructor hours, and those are just for if you have a question about your workbook and how to complete the work in your workbook or any of applying the course materials, you can join one of those instructor hours and ask a question from our instructors. So that's just twice a month. Okay, great questions. I'm just gonna pour myself some more water. And let's see, are there any other hands raised? Okay, we talked about that. Okay, so final slide that I had for you, because we did request, or there were some questions about technical expertise, and I did promise to share Manzoli's story with you earlier. So Manzoli, he was part of our spring 2019 session as well, so the one we just wrapped up in June, and he also has his CBAP and like 3 or 4 other certifications. I think he's one of the most credentialed people that has gone through the program. We've had a lot of CBAPs go through or aspiring CBAPs, but I don't know that we've ever had somebody with this many letters after their name. And he had also fallen into the role from more of a business subject matter expert. Like he was working on projects and doing the kinds of things a BA does, didn't really realize that he was doing it until he met another BA in his company. He's like, yeah, that's what I do, and my title is business analyst. And so he realized like he started to join the profession, went to his local IIBA chapter meetings, got certified as a CBAP, but he still had mostly had experience in that company where he was a subject matter expert, and things were getting a little rocky in his company, and he wanted to make sure he could take that experience with him to other companies. And so that was his expectation coming into the blueprint, was just applying those skills, and again, that instructor feedback of, yes, I'm doing this right. Yes, this is how you would do it, not just in your company, but in any company. And Manzoli actually really leveraged the learning process that we go through there with, like, sometimes he would send in a first draft for an instructor hour and receive some feedback and like rework things to really meet those standards and see how what he was doing and kind of his natural way of doing things fit better within the framework of what we teach in the blueprint. And so in the program, right between like module 2 and 3, he actually received a senior business analyst position in a new company. And so that was a big win for him. And we shared all about his story up on Bridging the Gap as well. And you can kind of learn exactly what his interview process was like and what he went through. But a lot of what he shared was like, I felt confident in my skills because I had this review, I'd had this exposure to what other people were doing in the profession, and I didn't feel like I was just the only one. So that is Manzoli, and love his story as well. All right, lots of questions came in while I was sharing that. So does this training, and feel free if you have other questions, I am happy to stay on and answer them. Invite you to take the next step with us. I would love to have you join. We have, registration is open through next Tuesday. If you have questions, this is a great time to ask them, or you can also email us in at any time, and we will do our best to support you through email as well. So IVS, does this training better prepare you for the PMP certification? Again, just like with IIBA, it gives you the credits that you need to apply. It is aligned to some of the areas of the PMP, which is why we're able to give you those credits, but it's not a PMP prep course. And I am not a PMP, so I can't speak to that in detail in terms of exactly how aligned it is to what's covered in the PMBOK. I would guess like the business process analysis is probably the most aligned, but I don't think that the PMP really covers a lot of software requirements. Though they did add a little bit on that. So, but there's going to be a lot in the PMP that's project management that is not what we cover in the blueprint. So you would probably want to supplement with some project management training. But if you already have that and you're looking for the credits, then this would give you those credits that you need. Or if you have your PMP, we see people who have their PMPs and they need credits to recertify. And if you're a PMP and CBAP, you can actually use the course for recertifying on both, because nobody checks that you're counting it twice. Okay, Faraz asks, how does this course relate to CBAP versus IREB? I think I've kind of spoken to CBAP, like it relates to, it aligns to what's covered in the business analysis body of knowledge. It's not comprehensive of what's covered in the business analysis body of knowledge. But once you start doing these skills and applying these techniques and gaining this experience, often what seems very abstract in the BABOK becomes more concrete because you're able to relate it to your experience. And I'm just not familiar enough with the IREB to speak to that one specifically. Okay. Not so much a question, but I think that slide relates to me. My desire is to really strive at perfecting my tools in the BA toolkit, and I would say that's what I'm most interested in. Awesome, Lisa. So I'm assuming you meant Manzoli's slide. Yeah, and I think that really speaks to, you know, there are some of us, and I'm myself included, like I invest in courses for myself and my business every year. Like this year, I've joined, what have I joined? I'm part of a high-level mastermind, and I've joined at least 3 courses that I can remember, and that probably means there's 5, right? And it's different things that just take me to the next level and that constantly push me forward. And that's part of how I invest in myself. And it really hit me actually this summer when I realized like I get to be part of that for other people. Like every course I've invested in has helped me grow personally in some way. And this is a little bit of pulling off the curtain or, you know, behind the scenes. And I was like, oh, I get to do that for other people as well. Like that's my work, is to, you know, help people who are really ready to take the next step in their careers and be that conduit for them to have that experience of growth as well. And that's what lights me up. That's what lights our instructors up. That's why we're here. And I'm grateful to be able to do this work with everyone. So thank you for that, Lisa. And I hope that addresses if there was a question underlying there, like, yes, for sure. We'll meet you where you're at. And if you've got some experience, like you can use it to take that experience and get it more perfect. So wonderful. I'd love to have you join. All right, I'm just gonna scan through the hands one last time and leave it open in case anyone's feverishly typing. But I would just like to say thank you for being here. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for your interest in the program. I'd absolutely love to have you join us. It's a great program. I'm obviously really proud of it. I'm proud of our success stories. I want you to be the next success story. I'd love to be sharing your picture on this slide when we do this again in February of 2020. And that's what fuels us. That's what keeps us going. And that's why we do what we do. So thank you for being here. I really appreciate your time today. If you have any other questions about the program, feel free to reach out to us via email. And myself or my team will do our absolute best to support you in figuring out if this is the right decision for you. Thanks again. See you soon. Bye, everyone.